Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wers, President and CEO of the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today, special guest is Rick Cloutier. He is the new director of the Moore County Airport, and you take over for Ron Maness, who was the airport director 4 times. I guess we were retired 4 times, came back 4 times, but you are now the permanent director of the Moore County Airport. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines in Moore County.
Thanks, Phil. I'm happy to be here. Really appreciate you inviting me to this today, and I've enjoyed my 6 months here at Moore County Airport. Like you said, it's tough. Ron is a legend in aviation, both in the military and in North Carolina. So it's tough shoes to fill, but hopefully I can learn quickly.
Well, we're glad you're here, and truth be told, and be full transparency, I'm on the advisory committee for the airport board. So, and I live at the end of the tarmac in Whispering Pines, so I see what goes on there quite a bit. And there's a ton of activity. Talk about your background. I know you're ex-Marine, and then been in the airline or airport industry for a number of years. You worked in Maine, North Carolina, and Idaho Falls, and now coming back to North Carolina. Just tell us about your background and your work in the aviation industry.
Well, anybody that attached to the Marine Corps would find me remiss if I didn't correct you on there's never an ex-Marine.
Oh,
so
that's right. Always a Marine. That's true.
Please keep that in mind. I got to bring that up.
I stand corrected.
But I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. I was an aviation mechanic. I worked on aircraft. I worked on helicopters. So that was great. After I retired, I started working at an airport up in Maine, Auburn-Lewiston, Maine. Small general aviation airport.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great way to learn and things. I really enjoyed my time there. And then after about 5 years, I took over the position as the airport director in Concord, North Carolina. I had a great time there. We grew the airport, established air service for the first time ever in the history of the airport. That continues to be doing very well today. Mm. And then after that, I left and went to Idaho Falls, Idaho, to be the airport director at the Idaho Falls Airport. Non-hub airport served by 5 airlines, so we had a great time out there. But as my kids kind of left the nest, I decided that it's time to come back to North Carolina, where we spent most of our formative years, and maybe settle here for good.
And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Maine.
Okay. What intrigued you, being having worked in Concord and then going out to Idaho Falls? What intrigued you about coming back to North Carolina, specifically, obviously, Moore County?
Well, weather, obviously, is a big part of that. A lot of snow in Idaho Falls. It was great, though. While we lived there, we enjoyed skiing, enjoyed a lot of outdoor activities, hiking. But, it's time. The weather is beautiful in North Carolina, and the region is booming. And, we're really happy to have the opportunity to come back.
What is it about this airport that compares or maybe contrasts with the others that you've served in the past? Moore County is similar. I've worked at a couple of general aviation airports before.
So the airport in Auburn, Maine was a small general aviation airport. Continues to be that way today. When I got to Concord, it was a general aviation airport, did not have air service. After about a year, we established air service there. That grew. But kind of contrast to Idaho Falls was a fairly large commercial service airport. We were fortunate to have a fairly large general aviation community, but mostly, like I said, we were served by about 5 airlines. And by the time I left in 2022, we did about 700,000 passengers, and in 2023 are on track to do even more than that. So, there's a little bit of both. I've had a lot of general aviation experience and commercial service experience.
Interesting. I covered NASCAR in my TV days in the late 90s, so I remember going to the Concord Airport. All those NASCAR guys fly into Concord. But interesting with the commercial flight service, because that airport is, 10, 15 minutes away from Charlotte Douglas Airport. You would think that, how could you have commercial flight service in Concord when you're so close to Charlotte? How does that work?
Well, you kind of have to complement each other. When we went into it, we didn't want to compete with Charlotte Douglas, because obviously that's a losing proposition. It's it's the 6th largest airport in the country. So they do a lot of great service. So we looked for a service that was going to complement it with low-cost service with Allegiant. Brought Allegiant Airlines in there. They had kind of a low-cost carrier to resort destinations. So, and that ended up working really well, and it's continuing to grow today.
You know that Moore County had commercial flight service at one time in the 90s, and as recently as I think 2005 or 2004, something like that. What did you see, or what do you see here in Moore County where it intrigues you that bringing commercial flight service back can make sense?
Well, I think the community is growing, for one thing. I mean, the region is growing. So I think there's probably some opportunities, well, be it a lot of work to get it done, some opportunities to start some, at least limited commercial service, providing service to the region that might complement our other airports in this area. We do have a large resort facility here, obviously, that brings in a lot of visitors. So I think kind of working with the growing population here in the resort, there would be some opportunities to have commercial air service.
I know Natalie Dean Hawkins, who's our head of economic development here in Moore County, and in this office here at the CVB, we've received phone calls from people saying, hey, we would like that. I know the USJ has made inferences to me and to Natalie that they'd like to see commercial flight service. How about at the airport there? Do you have calls or people saying, hey, why do you not have commercial flight service here? And can it be done? I mean, I think some people have asked me, do we have a long enough runway to be able to accommodate those types of planes?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of requests about that, actually. And everything from, formal requests at the airport to when I'm having dinner, out in public and somebody just happens to figure out where I'm at, they all ask, why don't we have commercial service? So I think, I think the general public would be supportive of it. And the runway is plenty long enough to have commercial service. The operations, I mean, obviously it would be a limited, we couldn't have international service
right.
with, huge 787, 757 aircraft, but everything right up to regional carriers, 737s, Airbuses, things like that could operate at the Moore County Airport.
Some people might ask, well, how can you do that when there's no official like TSA? You have a terminal. I think there's plans to build a new terminal down the road. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But how would you be able to accommodate commercial flight service under the current infrastructure?
Well, we'd have to upgrade that current infrastructure, even if it's just temporary facilities. You'd have to bring in TSA. You'd have to have a hold room facility, a baggage makeup facility. So you'd have to bring all those infrastructure pieces in. But we did that in Concord. We didn't have any of that in Concord either. And we ended up turning in one of our hangars into a temporary, both TSA facility and secured hold room facility for about 2 years while we built a new, commercial service terminal. So there's a lot of different ways you could do it, but you would have to at least have temporary space to do that, to grow.
Now we can say, we think or we hear that we can have commercial flight service, but you're in the midst right now, or a company is in the midst of a feasibility study. It's basically called a catchment study or project. Can you elaborate on that? And just so people know, the CVB is assisting in funding that feasibility study because we're interested in seeing if there's viability there, whether it be good or bad, yes or no. What is that feasibility study, that catchment study, trying to ascertain?
Well, basically, that catchment area study actually defines a catchment area around the airport where it's reasonable driving distance to come and take a commercial service aircraft out of the airport. It looks at all the ticketed passengers from all that catchment area, looks at every ticketed passenger through the Department of Transportation database, not by name and address and things, but just by number of people, where they started their trip, where their destination was, their layover airports. And also you catch inbound data also of, and that's a little harder to get, but you try to collect inbound data also. And basically you sort out how many passengers came from the catchment area that started their trip at a different airport someplace else.
Now, say this feasibility study, and we'll know the results of this by the end of June from what I understand. If it comes back favorably, what are the next steps at that point?
Well, if it does come back favorably, and I think we're seeing some initial numbers that are showing positive signs. Still a lot of data to go through, right. But then we would have to make a decision on a air service development program. Start a whole new program. Start getting the facilities together, temporary facilities at least, to house the TSA and the hold rooms and all the security areas. and start meeting with airlines to see what their interests are.
What would be some, you mentioned Allegiant you had at Concord Airport. What would be some of the other airlines that might entertain the thought of providing service here?
I mean, I would never dare to guess upon that, but, probably quite a few airlines, especially some of the low-cost carriers that provide destination and resort services, would probably be interested in providing some service here.
I've seen, this is not on the commercial flight service, but I see Wheels Up, because I say I live in Whispering Pines, I drive by, I see Wheels Up here quite a bit. So obviously I think most of those people would be golfers. I would imagine probably 75-80% of those people would probably be golfers that would be coming inbound. Those outbound, we'll talk about inbound first. I would imagine most of those would be golfers.
Yeah, the good majority would be golfers, but we also have a lot of, with our traffic now, our corporate aircraft, we have a lot of corporate aircraft coming in and out that's not necessarily here for golf. We have a lot of growth in businesses in the region, things like that going on. So all those corporations are coming in and using Moore County, for their executives, for their decision-making teams. But again, a large portion of it is golf, but that's what we would want to support the region, both economically, with development and also the recreation piece we have.
What about outbound flights? What do you envision there? And I think offline we had this discussion on advisory committee level that wouldn't be so much flying to Raleigh-Durham or Charlotte, but this would be mostly to Atlanta, maybe Dulles, Reagan Airport. What would you see as outbound kind of direction?
Well, that's it. I think inbound and outbound would have to be, some kind of connectivity to a major hub, north and south. And that would probably be either Atlanta or Dulles or Reagan or something in D.C., where you would have connectivity to, hundreds of destinations on just one connection point.
Interesting. As we tape this, it's the day after the Masters concluded. And I remember when I worked on my resort days in Sandestin Golf and Beach Resort in Destin, Florida, I got the opportunity, was fortunate enough to be invited to come from a member of Augusta National to fly into Augusta and experience a day at the Masters. I think it was a practice round or Tuesday, Wednesday. So I remember flying into Augusta Airport and seeing the dozens of corporate jets that were there for the players, I'm sure CEOs of companies, things like that were there. We're getting ready for U.S. Open here in a couple months. How many corporate jets do you anticipate being on the tarmac during the week of the U.S. Open? And it's going to be a pretty significant influx, I'm sure.
Yeah, we expect a large influx of corporate aircraft coming in for the Open. We expect in the neighborhood of 2,000 aircraft, kind of 2,000 different aircraft operations coming in and out of that week. Probably neighboring on about 5,000 passengers that will operate through the airport that week. So we will have dozens upon dozens of aircraft on the ramp at any given time.
Do you have to get support, like air traffic control or additional support for that kind of volume of planes that are going to be flying into the area?
We do. Just this morning, we held a meeting with our local partners. That includes the Air Traffic Control Center in Fayetteville, the Air Traffic Control Center in Atlanta and D.C. We're actually bringing in a temporary air traffic control tower that'll be set up during the week of the Open that'll have connectivity just like any aircraft control tower at any airport would. So we have a lot of coordination going on that'll bring those aircraft in and out safely from throughout the country, throughout the world, really.
What's being done at the airport? I understand there's a little bit of tidying up or getting ready for the U.S. Open. What are people going to see, whether they're flying here or they're picking up passengers at the airport? What are you guys doing there to kind of make a little bit warm welcome and a fond farewell for those that are coming here for the U.S. Open?
Well, I think we've been working on this for a while now, even previous to my coming here. Again, we mentioned Ron, who's a legend. He started working on, getting the airport in shape for the Open even before I got here. We're just continuing that now. We did a kind of a terminal upgrade. We did a lot of painting, a lot of cleanup, adjusted some of the spaces in the terminal to be able to accept a better flow of passengers. And we're continuing to do those things, do some more improvements. Of course, working on buildings and grounds, bringing extra rental cars in for those things. So we're doing a lot to prepare ourselves for the Open.
What about after the U.S. Open? There's a vision for perhaps a new terminal, other upgrades, hangars. Talk about the growth of this airport and the significance of it throughout not just the region, but the state of North Carolina.
Well, actually, yeah, we have a lot of plans after the Open. And I think people don't understand the Moore County Airport brings in over $300 million a year in economic impact to the region. So we're very important in the whole economic development piece of all of the state of North Carolina. Currently, we're under construction of a new 10,000 square foot corporate hangar that'll be open before the Open. So we hope to have that completed before the Open. We are under design for an additional taxiway and 2 more corporate hangars that'll be built next year. We're also starting a design program for a new terminal building, corporate terminal building. Will better greet our customers, make a better representation of the Moore County region. So we're doing all those things, and most of that, all the funding from that comes from the Federal Aviation Administration or the Department of Aviation from the state of North Carolina. So only very little local money goes into that. It's most of that is grant money, and even the other local money all comes from the airport. So I think it's important to maybe take a moment to realize that no tax dollars in anything in Moore County supports the airport. The airport is self-sufficient upon itself, so we take no tax dollars from anybody to do upgrades that support the airport. So all these upgrades really aren't coming out of the local taxpayer dollars.
Do you fly yourself?
I do. I have a private pilot's license. I don't fly as much as I'd like to, but it's just like anything else. You don't want to go back to work on your own time.
Right. I know, and going to some of the meetings here, we've been lucky enough to kind of see maybe a glimpse into the future of aviation and what that's going to look like. There was one presentation, I forget the name of the company, they were going to build a terminal in Dubai, and these were like either drones, pilotless planes. This is something that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, right?
Yes. Yeah, advanced air mobility is kind of what they're coining the phrase now is drones and small, even piloted aircraft, electric aircraft that can land on very short runways. So yeah, advanced air mobility, both those things are going, construction of those things are going fast and furious. So we're making sure that we're staying involved with kind of watching how that's working to make sure we're ready for the future too, and be prepared to be able to accept those kind of aircraft.
And I think I heard a story like you can fly into the Raleigh-Durham airport, hop into one of these aviation vehicles, and have them transport you to the Moore County airport. Just hop in. It's almost like an air taxi.
It's exactly what it is. It's similar to an air taxi, but it's very economic. It's environmentally friendly because most of them are hybrid or electric aircraft they're working on. So, and they have short distance takeoff and landing, so you can land that aircraft even away from the runway in a certain portion of the airport specifically made for those type of advanced air mobility aircraft.
I was amazed in hearing this presentation that they could land. It's less than 100 yards. I mean, it's almost like a hovercraft, really. Almost when you think about it, it could just kind of like almost like a helicopter, really.
And that's what they're constructing them to be, almost like a hovercraft, where it can fly like an airplane but land like a helicopter.
Mm-hmm. Like an osprey, almost.
Exactly, like an osprey.
So I guess you were in the Marines. I guess you worked on ospreys.
I worked on ospreys for a short period of time. They were just bringing those in my last few years as I was getting ready to retire. And they were phasing them in, so the squadron I worked in didn't get those to kind of one of the last squadrons. So I had very little time working on it. Previous to that, I was a helicopter mechanic in the CH-46, the C-Knight, the tandem rotor, similar to the Chinooks you see here, just a little shrunk-down version of that. I was an aircraft mechanic on those for many years. Talk
about the relationship, because, again, I live in Whispering Pines, so I see some activity there at the airport. And it's interesting, I'll see, maybe a C-130 doing touch and goes, or helicopters from Fort Bragg flying in. Talk about the relationship with Fort Bragg and what you allow at your facilities for them to train, I guess, flying into that airport.
Well, we appreciate our relationship with Fort Liberty.
Fort Liberty, I should say.
Fort Liberty and all of our military partners, actually. We have a lot of both aircraft, Marine Corps. I mean, North Carolina has a lot of military presence here. Mm-hmm. So we're fortunate to be one of their training sites that they're able to use for touch and goes, training and things. But we also have DOD producers on the airport that work for contract for DOD and things. So we appreciate our relationship with the military, and we continue to foster that as much as we can.
And that comes into play. I'm sure those relationships are key when it comes to your annual event, the Festival de Avion. I think you got here right as the last one happened last fall.
Yes.
Did you not? So you got a chance to see that. And Peter Stillwell with Tar Heel Events, Tar Heel Communications, our event arm, stages that every year. So it's grown by leaps and bounds. I think there were over 5,000 people there last year. Talk about people not familiar with Festival de Avion. And that's, again, this fall. It's usually last Saturday in October. What is going to happen? What are they going to see?
Well, it is. Festival de Avion is a great aviation event at the Moore County Airport, put on by Peter Stillwell and his group. It brings in, aviation from all sectors of aviation: military, private, corporate aircraft, large aircraft, small helicopters. I mean, just about every type of aircraft is represented during that one-day event. We also have a lot of partnerships with the military. They do, they do parachuting and all these kind of things. So, it's really a great aviation event that really, can really get a broad spectrum of a lot of things that happen in aviation just by attending that event for one day.
Great family event. A lot of kids out there, so they can become inspired to endeavor in a career in aviation. You do have a really cool program with San Jose Community College. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have a great partnership. Both the flight school at the airport and the airport has a great partnership with a pilot training program, aviation maintenance training program, and also airport administration training program out there at Sand Hills. So we continue to foster our relationship with that. We also host a couple of Young Eagle events every year where children ages 8 to 16 can come in and get a free flight, free 20-minute flight, discovery flight. So those are really great events to really help foster aviation and instill aviation careers in our young.
You and your wife have been here about 6 months as we record this. Were you familiar with the area before, and what have you guys kind of gravitated to and like to do here now that you're residents of Moore County?
Well, we were a little familiar from living in Concord before. We had visited once or twice. Of course, we're trying to get better at our golf game, taking some golf lessons.
Okay.
I don't know how well that's working, but I'm taking lessons. It seems to be going a little better than it did. So we're appreciating that. Of course, we're appreciating the weather and all the outdoor activities we have. We've been kind of purchasing a home over in Cameron, so that's kept us a little busy.
Okay.
But we enjoy this. There's so many events here. Mm-hmm. And so many places to see and great restaurants and all those kind of things that we haven't even had a chance to scratch the surface yet, I don't think. So, but we're just appreciating everything the area has to offer.
Well, when it comes to like taking golf lessons, to take it one bite at a time, it'll take a little time. I would recommend playing the Cradle if you haven't played the Cradle yet. Definitely do that. Thistledew, great putting course, and now we've got Wee Pines at Olmsted Village, so
right.
the putt there too. So, do you feel like that's part, since we're the home of American golf, that it's almost required that you play golf of some sort?
Well, I think I don't know if I'd say it's required, but I think I'd say, you'd be silly if you didn't. I mean, you have so many opportunities to play so many levels of different golf, the short courses we have, the great courses at the resort, everything in between. You'd be silly if you didn't take advantage of that.
And I love to ask people that are new residents of Moore County. I mean, you mentioned restaurants. I mean, I've got my favorites. Are there maybe 3 or 4 that are your go-to now that you're a resident of Moore County?
Yeah, there's a few that I appreciate.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if we're able to say that.
You can certainly name them here.
I think Mason's over in Aberdeen. That's great for breakfast. I've enjoyed.
You got to get there early because the line gets long fast.
We were really impressed. Actually, we drove down on Easter Sunday, So when my wife wanted to go, I'm like, we're never going to get in there. We actually only had about a 20-minute wait to get in there.
Okay.
They're really busy. I think we got there a little early, but we enjoyed that. 195 Main is
Love it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, maybe that's all I can think of off the top of my head, but we've enjoyed a lot of them.
Awesome. And I understand, too, you're into bourbons and cigars. I will tell you, you mentioned the line at Mason's. I remember a former colleague of mine who's since retired. We went to go have lunch at Mason's, and there was a long line, and they were just getting ready to open Workshop Tavern, which was right around the corner. And I walked around the corner. It was the first day they were open. And so I grabbed my former colleague and said, hey, let's go over here and check out Workshop Tavern. I will tell you, I've never been a big bourbon drinker, but for whatever reason, 6 or so months ago, I started drinking old fashions. I've probably tried old fashions in about 15 different places in Moore County. Workshop Tavern, by far, Nate and the crew over there do an amazing job. So talk about your bourbon expertise and why you like bourbon and cigars so much.
Well, I don't know if I have an expertise at all. I mean,
they have 150 different bourbons at Workshop Tavern.
Yes, I haven't had the opportunity to go there yet. I've tried a couple of times. Just didn't work out, but we're looking forward to trying that. I think we actually have some family coming in town this weekend, so we're planning to go there. But it's nice. I mean, this whole area is kind of really great if you're into some bourbons. The cigar box down on...
is that where like Highway 1 meets 15501?
Highway 15501 right there? Yeah.
Actually, that is... I met through... a gentleman who works in the legislature, that there's a senator from North Carolina, I think just east of Charlotte, Senator Johnston, owns that cigar shop.
Oh, really? I didn't know
So he's a
that,
big
yeah.
golfer. So I saw him one day at a conference, tourism conference. I said, hey, when you're in town, let's go tee it up and smoke a cigar. I haven't heard from him yet. But yeah, he owns that cigar shop right there at 15501 on Highway 1.
Yeah, that's a great little shop right there. Kind of right by Smithfield's, kind of in front of Smithfield's right there. Yeah.
Sure.
So that's got all kinds of great bourbons and some great cigars and really a lot of camaraderie and a lot of people in there really getting to know each other. So yeah, we've enjoyed the region so far. It's been great.
And you got to go by Beehawk. I don't know if you've been by Beehawk yet. As a military
Yes.
veteran, it's a pretty special place.
Yeah, it really is. We've been out there a couple of times now, and it is just a really special place. And the things they're doing out there is just amazing, and everything they're doing is great.
We talked a lot about your role here at the Moore County Airport. What about people that maybe don't know much about aviation, know much about the airport? Could you come over and take a look around, see, or talk to somebody there at the airport about what you guys do if they want to just come out there and see what you guys do?
Yeah, anytime anybody would like to come out, we'd be happy to, give it a little tour. I mean, we do have some busier times and months,
Right.
but we would try to accommodate at any time. Give somebody a tour of the airport. We'd be happy to do that at any time.
And with the U.S. Open coming, just one last opportunity to kind of say something to the world as they fly in for the U.S. Open and what they're going to expect and how you want to welcome them at the Moore County Airport.
Well, we'll be doing a good job, I think. We're working with our aviation partners, FAA and things, to safely arrive aircraft and depart aircraft. We'll be working hard to provide great service. So I think they're going to get a really great service when they come into Moore County for the Open. I think they're going to be welcomed. They're going to be appreciative. And I'm pretty sure everybody's going to leave very happy and satisfied with what they received.
Well, I know as a kid growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, my dad was in the Navy, so going over to the Naval Air Station, seeing the planes fly in, I always got a kick out of that, as well as the Norfolk International Airport. Love that. I think it's a great opportunity for kids to see these corporate jets flying in for the U.S. I'm amazed by it when I see them flying over almost my backyard into the airport. So great opportunity. Rick, it's certainly a pleasure to have you on the show. And best of luck with the Moore County Airport. And there's a lot of great things ahead, maybe commercial flight service, new terminal. You're here at a great time. I mean, as you know, this destination is growing like crazy. It's a great time to be here. I just hope that we can do it, and along with you, to do all this in a smart way that's to the benefit of not just our visitors, which is why we're here, but also for the residents of Moore County.
And that's all we want to do, provide a great service for the region, all the people of the Moore County region, to be the airport for everybody.
Rick Cloutier, the director of the Moore County Airport. Appreciate you taking time, and welcome to Moore County. So if you want to learn more about tourism, go to homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch more of our videos, go to our YouTube channel. More than 300 videos there at Home of American Golf. This has been Paradise in the Pines. We'll see you next time.